You're listening to Off the Cob with Lyle Harmon. Today's episode, Never Doubt Matt Rhule. When I heard Evan Cooper had resigned as a defensive back coach at Nebraska, I felt sick. I can only imagine what Rhule felt. Rhule values a family atmosphere, and we've heard several recruits recently talk about the feeling of family between coaches and players while visiting Nebraska. Cooper was part of that family. So between coaches and players, I'm sure there was a sense of loss. And while we hardly had time to process what had just happened, news broke the next morning that John Butler was being hired to replace Cooper. It seems Nebraska had been looking for a replacement for close to 2 weeks. With Cooper's resignation on Friday and the Butler news on Saturday, it became clear Matt Rhule had not been completely ambushed. Discussions had already been had. Cooper's resignation was the result, and with Rhule's network of staff and coaching acquaintances, he was quick to find a suitable replacement. There will be much speculation as to what occurred for Evan Cooper to resign. We're being told it's for personal reasons. That's good enough for me. We can only hope that he and his family are well. Where you live, your occupation, your pursuits in life, they all come second to the health and well-being of your family. Nebraska fans need to wish him well and thank him for his time at Nebraska. As for the hiring of John Butler, Nebraska may have knocked it out of the park. The man is more than qualified. In fact, several people are saying he may be overqualified. That's not a jab at Evan Cooper. Rhule often talked about Cooper's knack for recognizing talent and his bright future as a head coach. A large percent of Nebraska's recruits over the last 2 years were first identified by Cooper. And then there was speculation that Tony White would take a head coaching job. Cooper's name often came up as the man next in line. Butler may not be as skilled as Cooper at recruiting, but I wonder if he doesn't bring something extra to the table. Nebraska has had little success with taking big swings at several 5 stars over the last 2 recruiting cycles. Butler has extensive experience at both the college level and the NFL. Several of his players have expressed how intelligent he is and how much they enjoyed playing for him. Identifying unknown 3-stars may not be as vital if you can convince 5-star talent to get on board. I'm sure Matt Rhule was the point man in the hiring of John Butler. They are close to the same age, and I'm told they are like-minded in their approach. No nonsense, demanding but honest, and always fair. And rest assured, Tony White was very much involved in this hire. If you're Matt Rhule, you don't talk about how you want your assistants to be head coaches someday and then not let them be involved in the vetting of the candidates. Need I remind anyone? Tony White took the job as defensive coordinator at Nebraska after Rhule had already named his defensive staff. White had never worked with Cooper, Doverek, and Knighton. That wasn't going to happen a second time. With the anticipation of Cooper's departure and the search for a replacement, regardless of who it might be, I believe Tony White had the final say on this hire. The fact that White had no choice but to work with Cooper makes me wonder if Cooper's style of coaching truly fit White and his 3-3-5 defense. One needs to remember, White coached cornerbacks at both San Diego State and Arizona State. He was also the defensive passing game coordinator at Arizona State. Rhule asked White to do something he often avoids himself, working with coaches he doesn't know. Yes, White was allowed to bring Jack Potenza, Josh Berlingle, and Kevin McGarry with him as analysts, but they weren't involved with day-to-day coaching. I'll also remind you of an interview with Tony White a few months ago. It was obvious he was frustrated with the number of third-down conversions allowed and the lack of takeaways on defense last season. Listening, I had to agree. I felt Nebraska's corners played too soft. Granted, they didn't let anyone get behind them, and they were sure tacklers, but they seldom contested passes. They didn't get their hands on the ball. Instead of batted or tipped balls, we often seen easy completions in crucial situations. Now, don't get me wrong. Cooper's a good coach. However, personalities can sometimes clash. Rhule has talked about how cool and collected Tony White is and how fluid he can be in game situations. But just like Rhule, I'm sure Tony White has expectations of what he wants to see on the field. Cooper has been described as rough around the edges. Others will say he was aggressive and unyielding in doing things his way. Coaches often feel very strongly about the techniques and philosophy they teach. One must wonder if defensively, everyone was always on the same page. Butler has made no bones as to why he left Buffalo. He wants to be a defensive coordinator either in college or the NFL. People are already anointing him as the next defensive coordinator when White leaves. But don't bet on that happening next year. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Tony White is too smart to leave for just any job. It must be the right fit. And who knows what will be available in the next hiring cycle. I'm sure Rhule made no promises to Butler. They both know the current lay of the land and have been in the game long enough to understand how things work. It will take care of itself. The truth is, this is Rhule's second season, and there has been several support staff changes and now a couple of coaching changes. That's not uncommon in a coach's first 2 seasons. Not only do the pieces of the puzzle concerning players have to fit, but the coaching and staff pieces must fit as well. I hate this happened for Matt Rhule and Evan Cooper. But one must believe this decision wasn't made lightly. It's best for everyone concerned, including Nebraska football. Catch you again on Off the Cob. Take it easy.